Hello. Okay, I'm here to talk to you about my healing process. The way I went through it at first and what I eventually realized was the right way because what I was doing originally was not working. So, it all started a year ago. About like a year and a quarter ago. I don't think that's timeline, but we'll leave it at that. But yeah, so I met someone and at first I wasn't really all for it and really skeptical about it because this was my first time ever, meeting another person of another gender. But I went for it. It happened and we became very close. And eventually, months later, I saw myself falling for this person. And then months later, it didn't work out because we were both unequally yoked. And if you don't know what that means I am a Christian who has a strong faith in God and he's not, basically. But also there's also the version where two people are Christians and one of them has a stronger faith in God than the other one. So like a lukewarm Christian who's basically dipping 1 foot or 1 toe, 1 foot or toe in the worldly things, and then there's the other Christian who is completely devoted to God. That's also unequally yoked, in case you don't know. But yeah, so we were both unequally yoked, and that didn't work for me at all because he was pulling me back in my faith, and I was kind of just telling him more about my faith. And if you're someone who's not excuse me, if you're someone who's not really into Christianity, you're gonna find that as annoying and as pushy. So I was getting drained and he didn't care, so that didn't work. And that really affected me, like, a lot. Emotionally, I was hurt. Mentally, I wasn't really sure where I stood. I wasn't sure what to do. I was really confused, and I was just kind of like acting like I didn't care because I didn't want to care, but I did, like, a lot. When I first started talking to him, I wasn't really interested that much. I was like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. This seems like a new experience. Let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And, you bond, you become friends, you talk more. Physically, you get close, like, hugs and hand holding and all of that nice, cute stuff. But then when you detach from that, it drains you emotionally. A lot emotionally, and that made sense in my head. But yeah, so the worldly way of things is whatever I watched on TikTok, and they're like, you shouldn't cry about it. You shouldn't do any of this. You need to move on. Let it go. It happened. Move on. Do not dwell in the past. Just don't care. Don't. Because do not give him, what's the word? Time of tears. I don't know. I don't think that's a real saying, but something like that, where they're like, oh, well, don't cry. But basically they're invalidating your feelings. And I did that. I would, whenever I see myself like feeling bad or sad about, losing him, I would always break down, and then eventually I'm like, okay, well, why am I crying anyways? It's not that big a deal. Like, it happened. He wasn't all that. Yeah, so things like that. And that really, that really delayed my healing process because I thought I had healed over time. Whenever there's just days where I feel like I absolutely do not care. There are days where I go without thinking about him, and I'm so proud of myself. Like, oh my gosh, you just went like 6 hours and you didn't even think about him once. Wow, this is progress. And then there are days where I'm completely just sad. And I start to miss him, and I start to think about maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I could have done something different. Maybe I just didn't put enough effort in or something like that. And then, maybe randomly, the one thing you're not supposed to do, which is text him. A moment of weakness happens and then I text him. Regret. But I also don't regret it in a way because it all like led to me finally healing. So yeah, I was basically invalidating my feelings and listening to what the world had to say and what people who deep down they were broken on the inside and giving advices that didn't even work for them. And I would take those advice and I would take that advice and it just didn't work for me either. And I ended up, more broken than I originally was. Then I realized that I was going through it the wrong way. I think I realized it when I watched a sermon where Stephen Furtick was actually the one who was talking, and he said, the way you explain your experience is either going to keep you stuck in the past or help you move on. And a few days before I watched that sermon, it was called The X Factor. A few days before I watched that sermon, I had written in my journal about my experience with him and how basically all the bad parts of my experience with him. And there really wasn't any bad part, like super major bad part. It was just, we were both very young, super immature, didn't really know what it meant to be in a relationship. And I don't know if he got hurt, but I know I got hurt. So when I wrote in the journal, that's basically what I wrote. Just all the parts of me, sad and the way he made me feel. And, times whenever I'd say something that was bothering me and he didn't react the way I wanted him to react. Like he reacted the way he knew how to, which was basically just being nonchalant about it. And that's what I wrote down. And I realized that I still have a cough. I was sick a few weeks ago. Anyways, I realized that what I was saying in that journal was absolutely just trash. So when I watched that sermon, he was talking about putting an X over your notebook and things that the devil is kind of just making you think in your head as all the good things he's turned into bad in your head. And that clicked with me instantly. And I was not even holding my notebook during this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like when I wrote in my journal about my experience with him. And I kind of just wrote all the things that were not nice during the end of it. So I took my journal and I basically just put a huge X over it, huge X. I put X's on both pages and then I rewrote it. I sat there and I thought about it. And from the beginning to the end, I just thought about all the good things that happened and all the good feelings I had with him and all the excitement and fun and laughter. And I wrote everything down and I told God, if he comes back, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But I'm not going to sit here and deny that I don't miss him. I'm not going to sit here and deny that I didn't have feelings for him. I did fall for him. I wrote everything down. I was like, we are just going to spill. I'm not going to act like I'm tough. I'm not going to act like I didn't care. I did a lot. And I was ready to write that down. I was ready to admit it. So I think that's the first step to healing the right way, is admitting that you were hurt, admitting that you had feelings for that person, admitting that you missed that person. Because if you keep hiding it in a box, eventually it's all gonna just break you down and it's gonna keep holding you back. So I rewrote my experience and that was the first step to me moving on. So as the days went by, I was like, whenever I think about him, I'm like, you know what? I wish you the best. I hope he's doing good. And I told God, I was like, I would love if he came back to me because I really don't want to go through that whole getting to know you process and opening up and bonding with the new person. I just don't see myself doing that with the new person. He was the first one. And ever since, he's been the last. So I told God. And I also said, but if he doesn't come back, please bring me someone who we are both on the same level, where we both love each other as much or more. and we know how to be in a relationship, you know? And I also didn't pray for him to come back the way he was, because I know I'm not the same person I was a year ago. Absolutely not. I've grown a lot. And I see things differently than I did a year ago. So I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, well, I want him the same. No, I definitely asked for him to be more, I don't even know the word, more mature in a way, and just understand what happened, basically. Because if you don't understand what happened, there's no way you're gonna know how to move on. Because I understood what happened whenever we didn't work out, and I now have moved on. So yeah, so the first step was me admitting it. The second thing I did was, what's the second thing I did? This happened like a week ago. Praying. Oh my God, how did I forget that? Sorry, God. Oh my gosh. So praying, I prayed about it. I prayed and prayed and prayed. And I said, because I really didn't didn't like the feeling of me holding on to someone from the past for so long. I guess a year isn't that long, but it just feels like I've been holding on for so long. So I basically just prayed, and I was like, what I said a few minutes ago, that, you know, just please help me move on. Help me grow from this. Help me not stick to that past version, because I was just missing the past. And I know 100% the future is going to be a lot better. So, yeah. So I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed. And I watched sermons on YouTube. And the funny thing was that the sermons that popped up, whenever I opened my YouTube page, they're like, a sermon just pops up immediately. And it was always something that related to me, always something that related to my situation. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is I knew for sure. And I had huge, like, my faith is so strong. I'm telling you, so freaking strong. I had huge faith that it would for me. So I watched them, and I learned from them. And I opened up. I opened my heart up to God. I was like, you know what? I'm done. You take control. Because I also would try to like talk to people online, because I was like, okay, well, if I'm to get over this person, I have to find a new person to talk to and distract me. But that's all it did. It distracted me. There's no escaping it. You just have to like deal with it. That's the whole thing. So yeah, I watched sermons, I prayed a lot. And my faith just got stronger and stronger each time. Absolutely. Like, each time it got stronger. And then eventually before all this happened, I had reached out to him about a month ago, or more like January 1st. And yeah, I had reached out to him January 1st because I had been having lots of dreams about him and seeing his name everywhere. And I know when God is talking to me, if that makes sense. Like, I know when he's telling me this is a sign. So I knew that was a sign, because I hadn't thought about him for a really long time, and out of nowhere, he just started popping up in my dream almost every other night. And I was like, okay, I don't know what you're trying to say, but I'm going to reach out and see, maybe that's what you're trying to do. So I reached out. I had been praying for this guy for a year to find God. And he told me he did. He genuinely, why am I speaking like this? He genuinely understood what it meant to have God in you. And he told me. And I was I'm telling you, because the night before he texted me, I prayed to God, and I was like, God, please, let him just text me. Let him just tell me he has you in his heart. And that's all I want. Because when you love someone, you let them know about God. That literally the Bible says it. Like, when you love someone, you let them know about God. Let them know about Jesus. Let them know. You preach the gospel to the people you love. Because you know, at the end of the day, you want them to be there with you in heaven. So when he told me he had God and everything, and he said, God bless you. And I was like, I'm not kidding you. I cried. I wasn't sure if I should cry or laugh or dance. So I did all of them that morning. I cried. I was laughing. I was happy. I was praising God. I put on my worship songs because that's when I'm in the zone. And I felt so good. So good. Granted that, we probably never will talk again. That's okay. But that morning, I felt free. I felt like I had something lifted off my shoulder. Like all my prayers had been answered, and I felt completely healed and ready to like move on. I'm not saying I'm gonna put myself out there, I don't really know how to. I don't really go to parties or anything. I just work and study and stay home and hang out with my friends and my friend, aka Katie, and my family, and that's it. But I was ready to like let someone in a way, if that makes sense. Like I was open to having someone come in open up to another person, because before I just didn't want to. So when I don't know, that morning it just felt like a new beginning for me, and I felt the Holy Spirit and everything, and I realized that at that very moment, I had been healed. It's like they took off a bandage off my head, and the scar that was there was just like completely gone, and I was like, oh my God. But yeah, that's how my healing process went. It took a year, but it was worth it. Lots of downs, but you just gotta push through it. You gotta admit that you have feelings for that person. Stop trying to deny it. Stop trying to hide it. If you reach out to them, I recommend you don't, because I feel like, I don't know, if it's meant to be, you guys will come back to each other in the end, like later on in the future when you're both ready, because I believe that God separated us because we weren't ready. We were both immature, didn't know much about having another person's feelings in your hand. That's a lot, to have another person's feeling in your hand. I think that's something we don't understand about relationships. And I actually might do a video about that later. But right now, you just need to admit that you have feelings for that person. Admit that you miss them. And be open to moving on. Be open to like them coming back in the future. Don't close the opportunity completely, because you never know if they are your kingdom spouse, which is your future husband or wife. Yeah, that's how my healing process went. Pretty amazing, I tell you. I felt the Holy Spirit, and I'd never felt like that before. I literally felt like my body had goosebumps everywhere, and I was jumping up and down when I was singing my freaking praise and worship, and I was like, oh my God, this was amazing. Yeah. That's all I got. I hope you learned something from what I said. And I hope you heal from whatever you're going through. Just know that you will heal, because you deserve it, because you're a good person. I think you're a good person. I don't know you, but whoever's watching this video, I feel like you're meant to watch this video. Nothing happens coincidentally. God makes it happen for a reason. And you're watching this video because you need to hear it. And you need to get ready for all the opportunities that are coming your way. Be open-minded. Accept it. Don't deny it. You're gonna do great. I'm gonna do great. And I'm gonna, work towards doing great, because you also have to put effort in. It's all worth it at the end of the day. All the pain, all the crying, all the heartbreak, all the freaking mental breakdowns, it's worth it. Just remember Philippians 4:6, do not be anxious. It's all in God's hand. You just have to give it to him and accept the fact that it happened. Denial happens. It's okay to deny, but accept it. Have a great day. I wish you the best. Bye.